All right, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you today. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker Carl, and I'm here with Lori and Dan and Kenji and Catherine and Jason. And today we're going to finish our discussion of the book, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. It's been a really interesting fictional book. We haven't studied fiction that many times. I think there was one other book that we studied that was a fiction one. And but it's been really enjoyable. Lots of great deep inner thought insights and that sort of thing. We're going to start on page 284 with the section titled The Volcano. And but before we get going, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. So go ahead and jump out, guys, introduce yourself, and then Catherine, you can take it from there.
Lori Emmons in Denver.
Dan Sissick in Las Vegas.
Jason, Tampa, Florida.
Kenji, Gorham, Maine.
Morning, it's Catherine Clement. And I'm going to get started at the volcano. It is quite the revelation to discover that the place she wanted to escape to is the exact same place you escaped from. But the prison wasn't the place, but the perspective. And the most peculiar discovery Nora made was that of all the extremely divergent variations of herself, she had experienced the most radical sense of change happened within the exact same life, the one she began and ended with. This biggest and most profound shift happened not by becoming richer or more successful or more famous, or by being amid the glaciers and polar bears of Svalbard. It happened by waking up in the exact same bed, in the same grotty, damp apartment with its dilapidated sofa and yucca mat and tiny potted cacti and bookshelves and untried yoga manuals. There was the same electric piano and books. There was the sad absence of a feline and lack of a job. There was still the same unknowability about her life ahead. And yet, everything was different. And it was different because she no longer felt she was there simply to serve the dreams of other people. She no longer felt like she had to find soul fulfillment as some imaginary perfect daughter or sister or partner or wife or mother or employee or anything other than a human being orbiting her own purpose and answerable to herself. And it was different because she was alive when she had so nearly been dead. And because that had been her choice, a choice to live, because she had touched the vastness of life, and within that vastness, she had seen the possibility not only of what she could do, but also feel. There were other scales and other tunes. There were more to her than a flat line of mild to moderate depression spiced up with occasional flourishes of despair. And that gave her hope, and even the sheer sentimental gratitude of being able to be here, knowing she had the potential to enjoy watching radiant skies and mediocre Ryan Bailey comedies and be happy listening to music and conversation and the beat of her own heart. And it was different because, above all other things, that heavy and painful book of regret had been successfully burnt to death. Hi, Nora. It's me, Doreen. Nora was excited to hear from her, as she had been in the middle of neatly writing a notice advertising piano lessons. Oh, Doreen, can I just apologize about missing the lesson the other day? Water under the bridge. Well, I'm not going to go into all the reasons, Nora continued breathlessly. I will just say that I will never be in that situation again. I promise. In future, should you want to continue with Leo's piano lessons, I will be where I am meant to be. I won't let you down. Now, I totally understand if you don't want me to be Leo's piano teacher anymore, but I want you to know that Leo is an exceptional talent. He has a feel for the piano. He could end up making a career of it. He could end up at the Royal College of Music. So I would just like to say, if he doesn't continue his lessons with me, I want you to know that I feel he could continue them somewhere, that's all. There was a long pause, nothing but the fuzzy static of phone breath. Then, Nora, love, it's okay. I don't need a monologue. The truth is, we were in town yesterday, the two of us. I was buying him some face wash, and he said, I'm still going to do piano, right? Right there in Boots. Shall we just kick off where we left off next week? Seriously? That's amazing. Yes, next week then. And the moment Nora came off the phone, she sat at the piano and played a tune that had never been played before. She liked what she was playing and vowed to remember it and put some words to it. Maybe she could turn it into a proper song and put it out there online. Maybe she would write more songs. Or maybe she would save up and apply for a master's. Or maybe she would do both. Who knew? As she played, she glanced over and saw her magazine, the one Joe had bought her, open at a picture of the Krakatoa volcano in Indonesia. The paradox of volcanoes was that they were symbols of destruction, but also life. Once the lava slows and cools, it solidifies and then breaks down over time to become soil, rich, fertile soil. She wasn't a black hole, she decided. She was a volcano. And like a volcano, she couldn't run away from herself. She'd have to stay there and tend to that wasteland. She could plant a forest inside herself.
How it ends. Mrs. Elm looked a lot older than she had done at the midnight library. Her formerly gray hair was now white and thin, her face tired and lined as a map, hands spotted with age. But she was as adept at chess as she had been years ago in the Hazleton School Library. Oakleaf Care Home had its own chessboard, but it had needed a dust down. No one plays here, she told Nora. I'm so pleased you came to see me. It was such a surprise. Well, I can come every day if you want, Mrs. Elm. Louise, please call me Louise. And don't you have work to do? Nora smiled. Even though it had only been 24 hours since she had asked Neil to put up her poster in string theory, she was already inundated with people wanting lessons. I teach piano lessons, and I help out at the homeless shelter every other Tuesday. But I will always have an hour, and to be honest, I have no one to play chess with either. A tired smile spread across Mrs. Elm's face. Well, that would be lovely. She stared out of the little window in her room, and Nora followed her gaze. There was a human and a dog Nora recognized. It was Dylan, walking Sally, the bull mastiff, the nervous one with the cigarette burns who had taken a shine to her. She wondered vaguely if her landlord would allow her to get a dog. He'd allowed a cat, after all. But she'd have to wait until she'd caught up with the rent. It can be lonely, Mrs. Elm said, being here just sitting. I felt like the game was up, like a lonely king on a board. You see, I don't know how you remember me, but outside of school, I wasn't always She hesitated. I've let people down. I haven't always been easy. Done things I regret. I was a bad wife, not always a good mother either. People have given up a little on me, and I don't entirely blame them. Well, you were kind to me, Mrs. Louise. When I had a hard time at school, you always knew what to say. Mrs. Elm steadied her breath. Thank you, Nora. And you're not alone on the board now. A pawn has come and joined you. You were never a pawn. She made her move. A bishop sweeping into a strong position, a slight smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. You're going to win this, Nora observed. Mrs. Elm's eyes sparkled with sudden life. Well, that's the beauty, isn't it? You just never know how it ends. And Nora smiled as she stared at all the pieces still left. She still had left to play, thinking about her next move. That's it.
Wow.
Thank you, Catherine. We appreciate you reading this book to us over the last few months. It takes us a while to get through these books sometimes, but I feel like we have a really great time discussing them. So I don't mind that it takes a while. So it works out good. So this part at the beginning of the section called Volcano, it says, it's quite a revelation to discover that the place you wanted to escape is the exact same place you escaped from. That the prison wasn't the place, but the perspective. And I think that's a really powerful thing to remember. You know, I mean, we all, well, not all of us, but there's this what kind of cliche-ish thought that's out there in the world that the grass is always greener on the other side. And but yet when we start digging into personal development theories and we talk about our own things that we struggle with internally, is that we realize that it's the internal struggle. It's not what's going on necessarily outside of us. It's how we are struggling with those things that are going on outside of us, and how we are reacting to the things that are going on outside of us, and how we're creating the things that are going on. And so when we recognize that perspective, which is what, this is, I feel like that's the whole journey of this book, of Nora realizing that it isn't about what's going on outside, it's about what's going on inside, and that she can change her thought processes to look at things from a new perspective. And by doing that, she creates this whole hopeful outlook now in her life, that she's ready to go forward, and she's let go of all the things that she regrets, where they were talking about, burning, the burning of the book of the regrets. And so she's able to recognize that she has this whole world of possibility ahead of her. And I think when we recognize that same thing, is that we can recognize that there is this whole world of possibility that we haven't even been looking at as what is possible for us. What do you guys think?
I have to agree that it's the internal, because I don't care who you are. I think everybody has this monkey mind in the back of your head is always chattering all this stuff. A lot of from what you have no control over as a child. You're born into this situation and all these circumstances, and it causes the monkey mind to think and do all these things that you feel like, maybe you feel like everything is mundane and the same every day, which I do pretty much every day. But then I'm like, hey, I have constantly had a attitude that it's not so much what happens to you, but how you respond to it. And it's just a matter of what you let your mind think. Sometimes that monkey mind doesn't feel like you don't have control of it, but it can so be affected by circumstances, whatever. I'm done rambling for now.
Well, I think both you and Samantha both hit on a couple ideas, and I get the feeling, and I'm going to say something that I think is still going to be relatively true, even as she goes through life with this new perspective. I still think she's going to, as she moves forward, she's going to have some regrets. I think that's something that's inherent in all of our lives. It's just we get to those moments and we look back and we think, oh, I should have here. But it's how we deal with that after that effect, I think, is what some of this book is trying to teach us, is that there's going to be regrets. I think there's always going to be that. And to your point, Lori, I think we're always going to have to battle that in I'm going to say programming that we've, had from when we were little, and it's got such a strong point in our lives because it's what helped shape us. But in going through this book, I think, it's up to us to determine, are we going to live or are we going to die, so to speak, and we have that choice every day, and the choices we make when we wake up to decide, okay, today, I know I'm going to probably do this, and do the best we can to take that and realize that we don't always have to listen to that monkey mind. We can then at that point make those choices to step out of that and go forward, and see where it takes us, because nothing ventured, nothing gained either, at that point, and I think sometimes we let aspects of the past control our future, and we're in control of our future and our point every moment in time, right at this moment in time. And moving forward, we can make those choices and in some ways, tell that monkey mind, shut up, and I'm moving forward this way. But it's easier said than done sometimes too.
Absolutely. It's about choices. And if you don't somehow take control of that monkey mind, that's when you end up drug addict or alcoholic or whatever, an abuser.
Well, I feel like with what Nora has gone through, she has more, she's now more suited to deal with those issues. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, Samantha. And it has a lot to do with having a new perspective, and that can be just huge. If you find a new perspective and believe in it, continue to believe in it, then even like you said, then if you still carry on some regrets, or maybe you don't even realize you have those regrets, but later they come up, and you're with that new perspective, you have a different way of looking at it. And if you put in the work and recognize that monkey mind, that inner speak that maybe has fashioned itself over the years in order to help you, but now that you have, you can get to a place where you don't need that sort of help anymore, and it can be put to better use. You can get that monkey to start thinking differently and saying different things and pointing better things out, and actually, being on the same page is what you now want, to determine as your next step in your future. So I agree with what you're saying, guys. That's what I guess I'm saying. And it seems like even though Nora went to all these places in her mind and wasn't actually there, she sort of did the mental work that is needed in order to work through those issues and better prepare herself for dealing with those things that might come up in the future.
It's interesting though how sometimes those, I'm going to call life and death situations, where even though it seems like when you're in it, it's like forever. Speaking from a little bit of experience myself, it seems like you go and think through a lot all at the same time, but sometimes, like in my case, when I was choking and just trying to gasp and get air back in my lungs and back in my body. But, you know, it was funny because I know a lot of things flashed through my mind, but yet I don't remember a lot of what flashed through my mind, except, you know, that feeling of, oh no, you know, I'm not going to see my family, or I'm not. So I think sometimes, depending on the nature of what you're going through and what you're dealing with, you know, you can, it seems like time is stretched, I guess, for a brief second. And it seems like your mind just races through all the different possibilities and all the different things and all the different scenarios at speeds I can't really explain. You just, but then once you get to the other side of it, you sense it, you feel it, you know it kind of happened, but sometimes you don't remember all the things that you dealt with. If that can, if you can make sense out of what I was saying.
You just dumbfounded all us. So no, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought about anything like that until, and it just kind of hit me now going through this book, but that's a little bit of, and like I said, I don't remember to the nth degree of, you know, except maybe a couple little things of what I thought about, because maybe I was so focused on, I want air, I want air, I want to breathe. You know, I did want to live, but and so maybe that that little time snap of whatever happened, I didn't, it processed, but it didn't process, if you get what I'm saying. It's hard to explain how I'm trying to, you know, but this book helped me is helping me understand some of that, what I felt and how I felt, you know, because after we got it dislodged and I could breathe again, everything, all I was thankful for is I can breathe, I can breathe, I'm here, I'm with my family, I'm, you know, all that, you know. But I never really went back and analyzed it and looked at it for more than I'm alive, I'm still here. But maybe I didn't take as much stock of it, like, you know, Nora did in his book, and maybe that's food for thought for me too, to, you know, kind of look back and say, have I really lived some of the life and the choices and the things I really wanted to live, or did I just continue on kind of like how I always been doing it too?
Well, I think those experiences can be so out of the ordinary and happen so quickly, um, and also can be so distressing that most people want to just kind of move on. So I think that's normal, and also it's just so surreal that you're just like, it's so contrary to, um, you know, just living in 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 comfort and feeling, feeling fine, that it's almost like, wow, did that really happen? And then do I really want to go back and walk myself back through that? Um, but there can be a lot of learning, I think, in that reflection. We take the time.
I find most people aren't like that. I find that the word awareness was something that escaped me. I didn't know what it meant to be self-aware. And I think this last since 2019 for me. It's been a journey of discovery, and I've been on like a slide. um, and I lost everything. I mean, including my health. And but I found me, and I'm grateful. I'm also I have regret because it took so damn long. But I don't blame myself for that. Um, this book, I mean, I think it's a guy that wrote it, right?
Matt Haig.
Matt Haig. So a guy is right. I find that very intriguing, to for him to step aside and really write about an inner experience that we want, but using her and her various lives is to finally get to the point where the first sentence of today, she's running away from really going back to what she thought she was running away from. I never lived life by the moment. When you have monkey brain, I mean, it's all a blur. I mean, I don't know if there's enough processing speed for us to put everything in there, to be grateful for the moment, to enjoy life. It's um, I take the move and then I'll be quiet. I didn't know how I was gonna go from Davidson, North Carolina to Gore, Maine, um, not being able to lift, not being able to sit, not being able to do anything except really just lay and let people do the work for me. And I could get overwhelmed, tremendously overwhelmed with how is that all going to work, and how is this all going to come together, and how am I going to do this? And I just didn't think like that. I just didn't think like that. I just did what was in front of me. I stopped when I started hearing that noise. I go the other way. It's a stupid noise I've heard my whole entire life. So I go another way. And it's not that I don't have that thought, but I'm not gonna entertain it. I'm not gonna give it any value. I'd rather put value and stock on something more positive. Um, so for me, coming into this book late, um, I mean, it's her journey is my journey.
That's good that you can see that and accept that and just go with it, because the alternatives is to not be here anymore. And I think we all have a purpose in whatever life we're in, and to not question that and or doubt it. It's deal with it every day. The whole human being or human doing part, and just feel like if I'm not doing enough, I'm not important or efficient or accepted or
Yeah, it's hard when, really the best you can do is get through the day, like alive, to put a lot of other things on your plate, really. But Kenji, I was proud of you the way you went through that move, and everything fell right into place for you, and you met some beautiful people along the way, and I'm really happy of how that went. And I know that you're happy to be home back in Maine, and I wish you could have your heat up a little higher though, because I know you're freezing. But um, Did you get your the projector?
It should be here today.
Oh, good. I told him to get a projector because being flat on your back, I remember when I was flat on my back and it's so challenging to try to hold up a phone or, to try to
It
even
hurt.
watch something. So having a projector, you're gonna love it. Yeah, we have choices every day about what we're going to accept about our lives and what we're going to change and how happy we're going to be, and regardless of the circumstances. And it's not like you just, well, you can be delusional and be completely happy all the time if you like, but I mean, it's not quite reality, but that's a perfectly good choice. Like I just, uh, not reject reality, but I kind of ignore reality a lot. I distract myself from reality with other realities, kind of like she did in this book. And so, yeah, I have related to this book a lot too. And I love the part where she was talking about the volcanoes. And once the lava slows and cools, it solidifies and then breaks down over time to become soil, rich, fertile soil. She wasn't a black hole, she decided. She was a volcano. And like a volcano, she couldn't run away from herself. She'd have to stay there and tend to that wasteland. She could plant a forest inside herself. I feel like that's what I've done with this whole CRPS thing, because it's really set me back. I had gone through the whole hero journey and I thought I was on the top of it and was reinventing my life, and then got whacked again. And CRPS, it makes you feel like you're on fire. So I totally relate to the burning of the lava, and how a volcano, how it's just like it is, but then it slows and it cools. And I kind of think about that as in that I've learned techniques to help myself deal with the burning pain and what that leads to. And so learning those techniques has kind of helped slow and cool it, and then it solidifies and breaks down over time. And I feel like I have sort of planted a forest inside myself. Um, and those saplings are starting to grow again. Like I can breathe a little bit now, where I couldn't a year and a half ago. And finding your way back out. But the thing is, you're always there. Like, that seems to be the common thread amongst all of it. So, what things still need to be healed and taken care of so that all of that stuff can go away. Who knows? That is the journey that everybody makes, whether they make it through a journey of pain and disability or whether they make it through a journey of fear and anxiety or
Victory
addiction.
and triumph.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million journeys, and everybody goes through those peaks and valleys, and everybody gets the choices. Everybody can decide how they're going to respond to themselves and other people, but it's not always easy. It sounds easy to say it. It sounds really easy to say, oh, it's just a choice, but it's not always easy.
You gotta love yourself. You can't make a choice without. I mean, maybe you can. I couldn't. I mean, you have to make that choice. the right one, you gotta care a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely taking yourself into consideration in all of this, because life is definitely interesting, you know. And sometimes it's really hard, and other times it seems easy, and yeah, it just varies from day to day. It's definitely interesting. A lot of people would say it's a challenge, and I think that in a lot of ways it is, but I think the challenge is more often than not, it's inside of ourselves, you know. It's that inner dialogue that we challenge, that we are constantly in some kind of a challenge with, because we have this, you know, one side of us is saying, you know, it's okay, we don't have to worry, you know, just trust. And then there's the other side of us that is the monkey mind that keeps going and coming up with all of this chaos in our lives that we have to face or overcome or do or whatever it is. And Kenji, I liked how you said in your challenge of moving, how you said you just did what was in front of you. And I feel like that is a really powerful thing for us all to remember, is we can't do everything all at once, and we can't do everything that, I mean, there's no way for us to do every single possible thing, but we can do what's in front of us, and we can remember that it's because here's another thing. I feel like a lot of times when I'm stressing out and getting all worried, and it's because I have this thought in my head that somehow I'm not going to be able to face whatever it is that comes. But yet I know that I can't. And I have to remember, I have to keep reminding myself, you can handle whatever comes up, you can face it. You can handle the thing that happens in the moment, because you've handled all this other shit that's happened up until now. So you can handle it. So just trust yourself, trust that you'll be able to handle it. And when I remind myself that, then it makes all this other mumbo jumbo that's coming up inside of me, that's got me worried or stressed or aggravated or anxious or focused on regrets or whatever, is that, you know, I don't have to stay in that headspace. I can remind myself that, you know, I can handle this. Whatever comes up, I can handle it in the moment when it comes up. And I don't need to stress about it right now, because right now I'm not even faced with it anyway. I'm just faced with the mumbo jumbo in my head that is telling me to worry about it. And you know, because then we're either we're holding ourselves in the past of thinking we're going to, you know, have an experience that causes us to have a regret, or we're in the future trying to face a thing that hasn't even happened yet, that may or may not even happen. So just remembering that, you know, just that take it as it comes kind of a thing, you know, when it comes up, you can face it and trust that you'll know how to face it, and trust that you'll know what to do in any given situation. And then remember also that even if you don't face it how you think you should, that it's okay. You know, we can still move forward from here, and we can still face the next thing as it comes, you know. So it's all good. And yeah.
We gotta give
Yeah,
ourselves
go ahead.
that grace to make a mistake. We have to. And you know, when you make that mistake, you can't dwell on it. You gotta love yourself, so that like your puppy, if it goes pee pee on the floor, you know, the worst thing you could do is scream at it and holler and kick it, because then it's just gonna piss on the floor all the time. But if you take it with love, I think in the end we get what we want.
Also, when you were going through some of what you were saying, Samantha, I I'm learning for me that a lot of times when I get in that brain and, you know, in those moments of thinking, and you know, and I know you all know how I feel. I a lot of times will say, God, give me strength, you know, because at this point, you know, and that's my way of kind of, you know, reaching out and, um, as Catherine would say, connecting with God, and, you know, that. And, but I also look at it as my way of telling myself, okay, I, give me strength. So and I can move forward through this. And sometimes I think that I'm too focused on what all the little minutia, like you were saying, of the possibilities of what might happen, instead of realizing that, wait, I'm still not in that point yet. How can I make a decision, or why am I letting this bother me so much? When, if I look back at my life, I've gotten through a lot of challenges, you know, by, God's grace and strength, and by the wherewithal and the people I have in my life, like you guys and stuff like that, to help remind me that I'm stronger than I realize sometimes, and to just, okay, deal with it when it comes on, make those choices, and I'm gonna F up sometimes, on those choices. I really am, but sometimes I get it right too. And like you said, Kenneth, we have to at least give ourselves that grace and love to know, okay, this time I didn't handle it so great. Well, what I learned out of this time, that if I'm encounter something similar down the road, you know, or if I know somebody that's encountering something similar, I can offer myself that wisdom from before, or offer them that wisdom of, you know, give yourself peace, give yourself grace, and deal with it the best way you can, but don't let it be baggage either on the other side. Don't let it hang on to you either, because if you give it that chance, it will glob on and hang on and just add to all the other stuff that you're trying to get rid of too. And that's another point I think we all forget, is you don't let it become an addition, but let that grace and let that love, and from like a couple of the other books, I am love, I am, we are love, and to love ourselves enough that much to let that go, and not bring it along as, that big suitcase that we're dragging along behind us.
Whatever it is, it seems like a magnifier, and you don't want to magnify that type of thing. It's the word perspective has a lot to do with it. I mean, when you look out at the universe, at the world, whatever, it's such a huge expanse. It's just immense, and don't want those things that are bothering you to become the magnifier of what your perspective is, how you respond. And
That goes back to, from what you were saying, Lori, that goes back to in the beginning of the Volcano, the chapter, and this hit me, and I'm just now remembering again that when Catherine read this part, it said that prison wasn't the place, but the perspective, and that was the most peculiar discovery Nora made, was that of all the extremely divergent variations of the self she had experienced. And I think that really hit me, because a lot of times I start looking from the wrong perspective, and I sometimes have to kind of bring myself back around and hopefully get myself back to the right perspective. Like, it's not the place is where my head is at, and that's where I think a lot of people get tripped up, is they think that because they're here or at this place and moment in time or whatever, that's the issue or the problem, but it's not. It's how we're looking at it and how we're perceiving it, and like we've all said, going forward, how do we deal with it going forward?
and receiving it as if it is a forever, the new mundane routine. This is my life now, and I can't, change it, but we can.
I was reminded when you guys were all talking about that, as a number of years ago, I had a I don't know, a teacher, I guess, somebody I was watching somewhere about something. Yeah. Anyway, he had said to remember that you, as well as everyone else in any given moment, are doing the best you can with what you know, with what you have. And um, and you have to forgive yourself for what you didn't know, because when we're whatever perspective we're looking at, that's where we're coming from, right? So however we're reacting to the world or to other people or whatever's happening in our lives, is we are literally doing the very best that we can with what we've got to work with. And when we recognize that, then we can forgive ourselves for what we didn't know, because how could we have known? We just didn't know. It wasn't in front of us. It wasn't knowledge that was available to us at the time, or we just didn't know. And when we can also recognize that everybody else in any given moment is working from that, what they know right now, what they are capable of right now, and or in any given moment. So if we are slighted by somebody, or we feel hurt by somebody in the past, or whatever, is to recognize that they're doing the best they can from where they are in their self right now. And that was a huge thing for me when it came to looking back in my life to some of the things that happened when I was growing up with my parents and my grandparents. It's just in life in general, is at the time I took it so personally, like they did it to me. It was like, how could they have done this to me? And I realized they were just doing the best they could. They didn't know any better. And and I beat myself up a lot about things that I did with my kids when they were growing up, and how I may have spoken to them or acted towards them in any given time. It's like Kenji was talking about, a puppy pees on the floor. Kids do all kinds of stuff when they're little that you just want to strangle them for, and when you're a young parent and you don't know good techniques for working with your kids to help them through, or stop acting out, or the screaming, or whatever it is, you react from whatever headspace you're in that given moment. And I have to remember, I did the best I could with what I had to work with. And that's huge, because then we can forgive ourselves for the crap that we feel bad about from the past, or we can forgive ourselves for making a choice when we didn't know any better. And we can even forgive ourselves in the moment now, when we don't do things that we think we should do, or whatever, because, we're just working from where we are right now. And that's all we can do. We can't do better than we can do, we like to think that we can, but I think that we can only learn from the things that are happening right now, and we can only trust ourselves to be able to face those things with the knowledge and the experience and the everything that we have right now. And because we are human, guys. We got to remember that, and humans aren't perfect, because if we were perfect, we wouldn't be humans. So it would be some
Dang it,
spiritual
you
being.
ruined it.
Huh?
You ruined it telling me I'm not perfect.
Well, and I think we have this idea in our head that somehow we're broken or wrong if we aren't perfect, but we're not. That's just the way it is. We have all these ideas of what we ought to do or what we should have done or whatever, and we can only do what we can do, So, and I think for the most part, we all have a good heart, and we all are trying our best, right? Trying to be the best version of ourselves, and I think even when you don't have self-awareness of what you may or may not be doing, or what you are or are not thinking, I still think that you're still doing the best you can, because that's all you can do. And so just remember that and give yourself a break, because we're amazing, and we don't have to beat ourselves up over every little thing that happened in our past and our present and our future, whatever, because that's what I don't know why we like to do that so much. What's wrong with us? Smack ourselves in the face and stop it. So I'll
I
smack all of
spent
you.
most,
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. And then you smack me. Give me a good smack.
I think you're right. I mean, I spent most of my life um, trying to figure out why. Why didn't therapy work? And why am I not happy? And why do I have stress? And why do I have anxiety? And, why do I look at people the way I do? And why am I so all of these, why? And it wasn't until I found Gabor Mate, this Jewish therapist, and he just, just like all the holes were just, I just started to solve. Sometimes it's nobody's fault. Sometimes things happen. Like my mom was super sick with me, and I ended up coming out as a C-section early. So I know the little baby me experienced a lot of pain long before he came out. Can't blame them for that. It's not their fault. So I got my answer. Now I have the clay and I get to mold it. And, so why did I have to go 62 years to finally figure it out? I don't know, but I'm grateful. I mean, at least when I take my last breath, I have me. I can say, little boy, I don't know where we're going.
Good chat. Good chat. Good insights. All right, so we're at the top of the hour. So final thoughts on this book before we wrap up. Anybody have a final thought on this particular book?
Yes, I wanted to say to Catherine, especially, that your fertile soil inside is amazing. And thank you for reading all
Yay.
this.
Yes.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much. It was a great book. I too thought it was interesting that it was a male author writing this book through I mean, I guess that happens all the time, but just as kind of personal as this book seemed to be, um, I thought it was a brilliant concept to write about. It gave us a lot of insights and things to discuss, and I'm really glad we read it.
Profound.
I have to say that sometimes some of the best types of books and that are the ones that grab you when you look at the title, but you don't know why. And then when you read it, then you kind of go through and read it and you go, oh, okay, this is part of you realize part of the reason. This was one of those books that had a title that kind of grabs you, but it's like, but what, and then you get into it and you realize the depth and the power that it has, even though it's a fiction book, but yet, sometimes those type of books are the best books to grab onto and help, because sometimes I think they display and show life more in reality than sometimes some of the, I hate to say it this way, the self-help books, all the books where, that they do this, do that. But as we see in this book, it really, showed and exemplified, I think, a lot of what each and every one of us, and if we're honest, and people out there in the world go through on a daily basis, of the regrets, hurts, monkey mind, all the things that go on. And I like how it closed, that we are, because volcanoes are, they're this big, powerful, you know, thing that caused so much damage, which we can do with our lives in some cases. But if we realize, yes, we understand the power and what we can do, why can't we take that power and energy and, let that lava settle, let it, break down, let it enrich, fertilize, and grow our lives to where we can be that for other people. And that's part of what this group is for me. So in that sense, I'm very happy we did this book too.
It's cool.
Yeah, those big events and everything we go to, we forget sometimes that it can also stem new beginnings. And I found it was very interesting that you could learn so much from what this character had gone through, and how the difference in how she was perceiving things in the beginning to the end. And it struck me then from what you all were saying about it, that it seems like it's so much easier to sometimes focus on the regrets and not on the successes and the failures. And I thought to myself, why is that? I mean, we have just as many successes as we have failures in life. I think that for me, it seems like when you're super young and everything's new, and you can see everything's a success that you do that's new and you accomplish. And then as you continue on doing those things, they don't seem like they're that important or that they're much of a success anymore. And so perhaps we don't see them as successes, but it becomes much more apparent that those little things are as much of a can be as much of a milestone as a success, when the ability to do those things has been threatened or taken away for a period of time. You start to realize that, wow, we're just doing those things that can be pretty major. So I think with changing your perspective, like Nora has towards the end of the book, she's realizing she had a different impact on people than she thought she had. More positive impact, and that she had meaning in other people's lives that she didn't even realize. Things that she didn't think of as successes were actual successes. And I think in regards to that inner speak and looking towards the things that we're hoping to accomplish in the future, focus more on those successes and those victories that you have, and step into those, and refuse to step into anything that might be a regret or a contemplation of a future failure. Instead, think about how it's going to be when you do succeed, because you will succeed when you just stay with it, and you'll have that impact that and you'll meet those great people that you weren't expecting to, and you still have those chess pieces to play, and we value those. We value those opportunities. We can look forward to those victories in our futures, all of us. So again, thank you for the great reading, Catherine. You do a wonderful job, and thank you everybody for all your great thoughts and points. They really touched me.
Likewise to you. It's an interesting perspective in this book to the same thing that we all know about forest fires. It's this terrible thing that happens. And then afterwards, the forest is so much more prolific and abundant, and got to go through the fire to get there. And how this crosses my mind all the time. What creator or whatever would think, oh, well, I gotta pack all this food in just so I can shit it out, and then it becomes fertilizer to grow more food. Crazy cycle.
Isn't that funny though? I mean, you know, just the whole concept of our entire humanity is basically it's like going through some kind of challenge in order to get to the other side of it. You know, it's like life itself is a challenge, right? You know, what amazing thing is going to happen after this life that is so wonderful, you know, because I mean, pretty much I think that depending on your perspective, obviously, I mean, you go through some shit, and if you have a crappy perspective on it, that's going to drag you down going forward. But if you have this perspective of, okay, you know, yeah, I went through this shit, whatever it was, and now on the other side, I've learned this, I've learned that, I made this new friend, I had this experience, I realized I was stronger, you know, all of those different things. I mean, it's we like to just have like peace all the time, right? You know, that's kind of like our thought. You know, I wish it would just be calm all the time and perfect, but yet, you know, we're all attracted to some kind of upheaval of some sort, whether that is adventure with like a chosen adventure, or whether it is you know, literal chaos in our lives, you know, and because we are human and we have this innate thing within ourselves that makes us want to be challenged and overcome things, whatever it is. And so I think that just having that ability to have the positive perspective of whatever comes up, I can face it, I can learn from it, I can grow from it, and you know, and I'll have some new insight, or I'll have something new from it, and that'll be great. So I'm thankful for that. I mean, that's what life's about, is just having experiences. I mean, at least that's what I think life is about, is simply, we're just here simply to have these experiences, to experience the contrast between the perfect peacefulness that might be spirituality and the chaos. Because I think that, you know, if we think about how long eternity is, I mean, it's ridiculously long. You know, I think when we weren't having these human experiences, we would just be bored, you know? So I kind of try and remind myself that sometimes, is that, yeah, it may seem chaotic, maybe this or maybe that, but you know, I'm here because I chose to be here for whatever reason that was, probably just because I was bored, you know? So anyway. Okay, guys, let's wrap this book up for today, or for this session. Do you have something else you want to add, Lori?
No, I just was saying.
Okay, all right.
Good.
Great, guys. Thank you again, Catherine, for reading for us. We always appreciate that. You do the best with the reading, and that helps us be able to really dig into these books. So I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for each of you, Dan and Jason and Kiji and Lori, for sharing your perspectives and letting us learn and grow from each other. So with that, guys, for anybody who's out there watching, if you found this video helpful, then please give us a like, share it with anybody else you think that would find it helpful. And you can always go to the homepage of our Mindset Mastery Collective YouTube channel to find the playlist for all the other books that we've studied over the years. And that way you can dig into something else and or go back to the beginning of this one and see how it started out. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week. And we will see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. We'll be starting a new book. What's our book called? Hunting Discomfort. Anybody know who the author is on that one? I don't have it in front of me, but we'll post something about it. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week. We'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.
Bye.